The first time I saw the planet Aurelia, it looked like a jewel floating in the dark sea of space. From orbit, its oceans shimmered with shades of violet instead of blue, and glowing storms moved slowly across the continents like living creatures. The station window reflected my tired face as our transport ship descended through the atmosphere. My name is Ethan Cole, and I was not supposed to be anywhere near alien royalty. I was just a human systems engineer, one of thousands hired by the Interstellar Alliance to maintain alien technology that humans barely understood. Most of the time my work involved repairing climate regulators, starport guidance towers, and the occasional malfunctioning security drone. But Aurelia was different. The Aurelian Empire had recently opened its borders to human specialists, and their palace systems were rumored to be older than many civilizations. Their technology blended biology and machinery in ways that still confused human science. Naturally, when something broke inside the royal palace, they needed someone who could fix it. Unfortunately for me, that someone was now me. Our ship docked at a floating platform made of white crystal that seemed to grow naturally from the planet's surface. When the airlock opened, warm air scented with unfamiliar flowers filled my lungs. An escort of tall, silver-armored guards waited outside. They were Aurelians, humanoid but undeniably alien. Their skin carried faint patterns of light beneath it, like constellations glowing under the surface. One of them stepped forward. "Human engineer Ethan Cole," the guard asked in perfect but slightly melodic English. "That's me," I replied. "The palace requests your presence immediately." That sounded less like a request and more like an order. Within minutes, I was flying across the capital city in a sleek, hovering transport. The city below was breathtaking, towering structures shaped like spirals and petals, rivers glowing softly at night, and enormous bridges connecting floating platforms in the sky. But the palace was something else entirely. It was enormous, rising from the center of the city like a mountain made of luminous marble. Energy shields shimmered faintly around it, and countless towers reached upward like frozen lightning. As we approached, I realized something important. If something inside that palace was broken badly enough to call in an off-world human engineer, it must be serious. The princess, no one could approach. Inside the palace, the architecture was just as alien as the outside world. Walls pulsed faintly with living light. Doors opened silently when someone approached. The floor beneath my boots felt warm, as if the building itself were alive. A palace official guided me through endless halls until we reached a circular chamber filled with holographic displays. "This is the royalcourt systems chamber," the official explained. "Our internal network has malfunctioned." I studied the displays. Strange symbols flowed across the screens, alien code layered over energy readings and biological signals. "Looks complicated," I admitted. The official nodded slowly. "Only one person in the palace fully understands these systems." "And who's that?" I asked. The official hesitated. "Her Highness, Princess Lyra." I raised an eyebrow. "Then why am I here?" "Because she refuses to speak to anyone." That was not what I expected. Apparently the princess was the Empire's greatest technological mind. She had designed most of the palace systems herself. But recently something had gone wrong. She had locked herself inside her private laboratory tower and refused to interact with anyone, not even the Queen. Without her guidance, no one could repair the failing systems. "So," the official finished awkwardly, "we hoped an outsider might succeed where others have failed."
Great.
My first royal job was apparently talking to an antisocial alien genius princess. What could possibly go wrong? Meeting the AlienPrincess. The princess's tower rose high above the rest of the palace. Unlike the rest of the building, this section was darker, covered with energy arrays and observation domes. It looked more like a research station than a royal residence. A guard stopped at the door. "She is inside," he said. "That's it?" I asked. "No warning." The guard gave a faint smile. "If she throws something at you, duck." Comforting. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The room beyond was massive and chaotic. Floating holograms drifted through the air. Half-assembled machines covered the floor. Strange glowing crystals hung from cables like lanterns. And in the center of the room, someone was working furiously at a control console. She was tall and slender, with long silver hair that shimmered faintly like starlight. Her skin held the same subtle glowing patterns I had seen on the guards, but hers were brighter, forming elegant shapes along her arms and neck. She turned slightly as I approached. Her eyes were deep violet, alien but beautiful in a way that made my brain struggle to process it. "Another palace technician?" she said without looking fully at me. Her voice sounded calm, but there was obvious exhaustion underneath. "Actually," I said, "I'm the replacement technician." That got her attention. She turned fully toward me, studying me with sharp curiosity. "A human?" "Last time I checked." She frowned slightly. "Why would they send you here?" "Because apparently you're not talking to anyone else." For a moment she looked offended. Then she sighed. "I am not refusing to talk," she said quietly. "I simply cannot explain what is happening." She gestured toward the floating screens. I stepped closer and examined them. Even with translation software running, the system architecture was insane. Energy channels merged with biological processors. Neural feedback loops controlled defensive shields. The palace itself seemed partially alive. "No wonder the network is collapsing," I muttered. Her head snapped up. "You understand it?" "Not completely," I admitted. "But I can see the problem." She stared at me like I had just spoken magic. "You are the first person in this palace to say that." I shrugged. "Guess that's why they hired humans." For the first time since I arrived, the AlienPrincess smiled. "Working together." Over the next several hours, Princess Lyra and I worked side by side repairing the palace systems. She was brilliant, far beyond any engineer I had ever met. But her mind worked differently from human logic. She thought in patterns and energy flows instead of traditional circuits. Once we started explaining ideas to each other, the solutions came faster. "You redesigned the palace's defense grid," I said at one point. "Yes. But you linked it directly to your own neural interface." "That was necessary." I raised an eyebrow. "It's also why the system is failing." She froze. "What?" "If your neural interface overloads," I explained, pointing at the data streams, "the entire network collapses with it." She studied the readings and slowly realized I was right. That should not be possible. But it is. For a moment, she looked shaken. Then she laughed softly. "A human solved the problem in minutes." "Don't worry," I said. "We're good at breaking things too." She laughed again. And suddenly the tension in the room felt lighter. Hours passed quickly. We talked about technology, space travel, and the strange cultural differences between humans and Aurelians. I began to realize something surprising. Despite being a royal princess, Lyra seemed incredibly lonely. Most people in the palace treated her with fear or reverence. No one spoke to her like a normal person. Except me. The moment everything changed late that night, we finally stabilized the palace network. The system hummed smoothly again. Lyra leaned back in her chair with a tired smile. "You have saved the royal palace," she said. "I mostly followed your instructions." "Still," she said quietly, "I am grateful." The room grew quiet. For the first time since we met, neither of us had anything technical to say. She looked at me thoughtfully. "You treat me differently from others." "Is that bad?" "No," she said softly. It is refreshing. I smiled. Well, you're not that scary once people get to know you. She raised an eyebrow. You were afraid of me? A little. She laughed. The sound echoed beautifully through the lab. And, without thinking, I said something that changed everything. Well, at least things worked out, my love. The words slipped out casually, the way humans sometimes joke with friends. But the reaction I got was not what I expected. Lyra froze. Her eyes widened. And suddenly she stopped breathing. Alien meaning, princess. I said nervously. She remained completely still. Her glowing skin patterns flickered rapidly. Did I break something? I asked. Slowly she inhaled. Then she stared at me with an expression that was equal parts shock and disbelief. Ethan, she whispered. Yes. Why did you call me that? I scratched my head. Call you what? My love. Oh. Suddenly I realized something might be wrong. Is that bad? She stood up slowly. In alienculture, she said carefully, that phrase is not casual. How not casual? Her glowing patterns brightened dramatically. It is a formal declaration of bond. My stomach dropped. You mean like marriage? She nodded. In ancient tradition, yes. Silence filled the room. Well, I said finally, that's awkward. To my surprise, she began to laugh. Not polite laughter. Real, uncontrollable laughter. You accidentally proposed to an alien princess, she said between breaths. Yeah, that sounds like my life. She wiped a tear from her eye. You humans are fascinating. I sighed. Please tell me I didn't start an interstellar diplomatic crisis. She smiled mischievously. Actually, you may have started something far more interesting. The palace reaction news travels fast in royal palaces. By morning, everyone knew. The human engineer had accidentally proposed to the princess. The queen summoned us both to the throne chamber. I expected disaster. Instead, the queen looked amused. So, she said calmly, a human has claimed my daughter. Accidentally, I added quickly. Lyra stood beside me, looking far too entertained by the situation. The queen studied us carefully. In our culture, she said slowly, a bond declaration must be accepted by both parties to be valid. She looked at Lyra. My daughter? Lyra hesitated. Then she glanced at me and smiled. I would like to explore the possibility. My brain nearly stopped functioning. Wait, seriously? She shrugged playfully. You did save my palace. The queen laughed softly. Very well, she said. Let us see where this unusual story leads. Ending, a casual word that changed 2 worlds weeks past. What began as a misunderstanding slowly turned into something real. Lyra and I continued working together on technology projects for the Empire. But we also spent time exploring the capital city, sharing stories about our cultures and learning about each other. Somewhere along the way, the joke stopped being a joke. One evening we stood on a balcony, overlooking the glowing city. You changed everything, she said quietly. I fixed a computer network. You also gave me something I never had before. What's that? She looked at me with gentle warmth. A life beyond duty. I smiled. Well, my love, that sounds like a good thing. This time, she didn't stop breathing. Instead, she stepped closer and took my hand. Yes, she said softly. It truly does. And somewhere in the vastness of the galaxy, a human engineer and an alien princess proved that sometimes the smallest, most casual words can change the future of 2 worlds forever.